Icons of Fright, and I host a show called Killer POV.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here for Son of Monsterpalooza. I don't know about you guys, still my favorite convention ever. Everybody having a good time here? Best one. And we have a very special presentation for one of my favorite horror movies, and I'm sure all of you guys agree, for Phantasm, 35th anniversary. We're on a tight schedule, so I'm going to just invite everybody up to grab a seat and then introduce them as they sit down. So the whole crew from Phantasm, please come on up. We've got Michael Baldwin, who played Mike. Reggie Bannister, Reggie. The man behind it all, writer-director, Don Coscarelli. The lovely Lady Lavender, Kathy Resto. Jody himself, Bill Thornberry. We have the director of the new Phantasm, Phantasm 5, David Hartman. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Angus Scruggs. Say really cool, I'm going to have a fanboy moment. When I was 15 years old, I went to a Fangoer Weekend of Horrors in New York every year, and I have a picture with Angus Scrim from all the way back then. Tremendous honor to be on the stage with you all these years later, so this is great. It's fun. Now, what we're doing here for this panel in particular is a little bit different than the average panel because I'm sure everybody on stage has talked about this movie a lot and been asked a lot of the same questions, which is fine. But we actually have a series of clips from the movie queued up. So what we thought would be fun is we'll watch a clip for like 2-3 minutes and then hear from everybody on stage about what they remember about it, shooting it, etc. I just think it'd be something kind of neat and a little bit different for this panel format. But actually, before we start that, I know as a fan, I'm very, very curious about this little movie called Phantasm 5. And since the director, David Hartman, is right on the stage, I feel we have to bug him a little bit with Don watching very carefully, I assume. But I guess because this thing came out of nowhere, there's just this trailer popped up earlier this year, and there have been rumors for years now that Don has secretly been shooting it or something along those lines, so...
I didn't link those.
Okay. So what is the scoop? How did this thing happen?
It's kind of bizarre. I'm just to kind of skip around here. I'm like a total fanboy, I grew up with this movie. I remember being 7 years old, going to Little Professor bookstore in Columbus, Ohio, and begging my mom for Fango issue number 2 with the prophecy bear on the cover, and I freaking stared at that thing, Michael Baldwin floating amongst the red sky, and a cut-off finger with yellow blood. I just remember looking at it going, what the fuck is this? This is the greatest thing. I gotta know what this is. And now, I'm back, and to call these guys friends, and to be invited into the family, and hopefully no one hates me. I love these guys, and this is a dream come true. So, I met Don from a friend of a friend kind of thing, helping out on Bubba Hotep. Great movie. Awesome movie.
Hey Dave, let's talk about what you did at Bubba Hotep, which was the animated hieroglyphs coming out of the mummy's mouth.
Yeah, that was cool. The stuff I'm most proud of is the stuff you can't see, wire removal and stuff like that. That's the geek in me. But, we worked on Bubba Hotep. Don asked me to help on Incident on and off the Mountain Road for Showtime, and I got the storyboard, some of that. I remember Don throwing me on the spot. I said, okay, storyboard the rape scene, I'll be over here. Okay. But Don and I became friends, and we talked about other projects and stuff like that, and we went out Don trying to help me for my own personal reel. We were shooting with some stuff, with his cameras and stuff, and the stuff is looking really good. And this is right before John dies, and we were working on that. And then one day Don's just like, "This looks good. You're doing Phantasm 5." And I'm just like, "Oh, what?" Yeah, it was like that. It was just pretty abrupt. And,
well, one of the cool things I'd like to say about Dave, which to any of the aspiring filmmakers out there, is Dave's a guy who goes out practically every weekend and makes a short movie. And it's something that I aspire to, because I sit around years between projects, and he actually goes out and does it. And whenever he would get a different kind of software program that was working, he would do a little video to show how the software worked. And actually he said to me, "Well, why can't we go out one weekend and do a little Phantasm movie?" And I said, "Sure." And then I called up Reggie and I said, "Reggie, come with us." And we got Gigi to help out on some makeup effects, and we shot for this weekend. It just went so great. That was really when we decided to go ahead and make an entire movie.
So is this over a series of several weekends, or how does
I wouldn't call it weekends. It was definitely over a few years, because obviously Dave had a very ambitious desire, and I was, throwing gasoline on that fire. And so sometimes it would take us a while to get organized to do what we needed to do and take it to the next level. But, some wonderful fan service, and it's something that I've been talking to a number of fans have come by, which is that fans are going to love this movie. Now, I don't know if anybody else will, okay, but Dave has definitely serviced the fans, because the 4-barrel shotgun's back, Reggie's back, Michael's back, the muscle car, Buddha is back, and an extended visit to the tall man's home world. So a lot of good stuff. Red meat for those Phantasm fans.
For me, as a fan, I want it to be faithful to the series. This wasn't my opportunity to, I'm the coolest director ever, check out this camera zoom. I wanted it to be part of the world of Phantasm, not a reimagining, not a reinterpretation. It is that world. As a fan, that's what I wanted to see. I hope you do too.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'm going to do Len. I just heard somebody enthusiastically call it Len. Any idea?
Only the tall man knows. Definitely next year sometime. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Excellent. All right, cool. Let's cue up this first clip and see what we got.
The funeral is about to begin, sir. Okay. Sir. It was a good idea not to let your little brother
funeral and see Tommy like this.
Yeah, after Mom and Dad's funeral, he had nightmares for weeks.
And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Yeah, I don't like this place. Well, say goodbye to Tommy. Let's just get the hell out of here.
Before anything, I made a glaring omission, so I'm going to apologize in front of all these people. Gigi Porter's here. She did the effects for part 4 and 5, the new one. So, welcome her. Now, so for this clip, I mean, one of the things that I knew about it is the funeral is kind of a family affair. I believe Reggie's dad is in the scene. I think your parents as well, Don, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. In the chapel sequence, everyone in the crew is in their pews. I'm just noticing that.
So what can you talk about, just the scene in general, shooting at the mausoleum? Was that a real mausoleum, the location?
It was a real mausoleum, and I probably should turn that over to Reggie because he actually ended up working in that mausoleum.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. We shot there. We got shot in the chapel. There was a scene where Mike is grieving over the grave of Jody that was shot outside. But it's a place in Long Beach, and of course you called it Morningside, right? The name of the actual place is Sunnyside, and I worked there shortly after we shot the picture. I was playing music at night in Long Beach in Belmont Shore, a place called the West Coast Bodega, and then I was working during the day at Sunnyside in the flower shop, and I would deliver flowers to people in wherever they wanted me to go, and I would also place flowers in the mausoleum because people, when you have a loved one that passes, you can make a deal with the flower shop, and they'll put the flowers, place the flowers on a weekly basis, once a month, twice, whatever. And so I did that, and yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'd have to climb up, and yeah. We. I would also help. It was a skeleton crew. What? And so everybody would do a little bit of everything. So I would help the guy who used to place the bodies in the crypts, or the coffins, caskets, in the crypts. And there was a couple of interesting stories, actually, Don. But I think the one you're talking about is when we opened up one to put another one in, and we had to actually, we looked, let's put it that way. It was kind of curiosity, and the guy I was working with was kind of in charge, and he said, well, let's just take a look at this. Yeah, and it was, the makeup in the horror films is really good, I just have to say, because this person, I think, went out in about 1923, and yeah. So anyway, and it was always a trip, like putting the caskets and so forth into the walls, and then you have to seal them up and stuff like that. But so anyway, I guess I was a perfect fit for the Phantasm series in that I had worked in. I worked in another one in Compton that we shot at. Yeah, and so, right? Anyway, that's my mausoleum stories at this point.
Excellent. I think the next clip involves Jody and the Lady in Lavender, so why don't we run that one, and then they can tell us about it. No pressure.
Well, let's see. It's just right up the street.
Maybe we should do a live commentary here as well. So, Michael, what were you thinking about as you're going?
Well, it's Kathy Lester, so she's pretty smoking hot. I mean, come on. Take a look.
This is kind of spooky, isn't it?
No, it's exciting. So, what's the only thing to do in this town?
Well, it's something.
I could say that in that bar before, that was the fastest pickup in history. I don't think he really had to say anything except, hey, and she was like, let's go. But she has ulterior motives, as we know.
Now, Kat, in the movie, you've got some just spectacular breasts.
First of all, those were not mine. I'm thinking of making up t-shirts that say they were not mine. I got a huge surprise because originally I was supposed to do this scene in bra and panties, and that's not me either.
And that's not my butt either.
No, and it's not my underwear. Oh, here we go. Anyway.
So, Bill, how did you end up...
So, Kat, what did your mom say whenever she saw it?
Well, I didn't see the whole movie until we went to the screening, and I brought my mother along. And needless to say, or maybe I didn't need to say it, I didn't end up doing that scene with the bra or without. It was somebody else, so I was sitting there watching the movie.
Wait here, it's my little brother. I think he's got some kind of a problem.
Anyway, so I'm sitting there watching the movie with my mother at the screening, and all of a sudden, you know, you see me from my shoulders up going over Tommy, Tommy, and then 20 feet high by 20 wide, I see these breasts. And I scream, and you were sitting behind me with Paul Pepperman, laughing your asses off. And my mother turns to me and she said, "Oh my goodness, you should have done this scene. Yours are much better." So that's how that went.
Bill, can you talk a little bit about working with Kat? I mean,
I can vouch for that. Just kidding.
Really?
Every scene that we did, I mean, if you're imagining what it would be like to do Phantasm, it was every bit of what you think it might be and then some. Because every day was like a gift. And it was just so freaking fun that I'm really privileged that I had that opportunity to do that, you know, and, you know, going even back to the scene with Angus where he slams his hand on my shoulder with the funeral's about ready to begin. He scared the crap out of me. I mean, it wasn't hard to react to that, you know, and it kind of worked. I love that scene, but with the cemetery scene, we got it the first time, you know, first take, and I was really disappointed. I think they should have given at least 2 takes, but they seemed to think that we got it, and she was great to play opposite of, and Don was a great director, you know, he just kind of let us do our thing, and he creates such a chill kind of creative environment, you know, to work in that for somebody like me that didn't have a lot of experience, that he just was a great commander-in-chief for that project. Thank you.
Yes.
Let's roll the next clip.
So Michael, tell us what's going on in this one.
You know, when I see this particular shot, back in the day I didn't like to take a shower, I didn't like to bathe. I swear to God, I'm not kidding, I hated to bathe, I didn't like to bathe, and people were trying to always get me to take a shower, and my mother was like, take a shower, and I was like, I didn't like to, I hated it. So I look at this scene and like, I look at my beautiful 70s hair, but I know how dirty it was. It was filthy. Dawn's mom, who was the makeup artist, she used to always complain. She's like, Michael, wash your hair. That's not a very Phantasm-y story, but sorry, that's what I think of.
So, this scene coming up, you got to understand that Michael we put a bunch of blood into his mouth. So right there, his mouth is full of blood. He's waiting to spit it out. And then he had to hold it.
Had to hold it, bite it, squirt it out effectively. Pretty gross. The famous scene.
That was apple juice and beer.
Dos Equis.
Angus, would you walk us through the
great
rest of this?
trickle.
I didn't get the question. Walk us through.
Oh, shit.
Yes, you did. You choreographed it. It was very, very good. And we filmed that chase over and over until my legs began to scream with pain.
I definitely want to talk about the spear, but before that, I want to focus on the tall man and ask Angus a question. I mean, when you got up here, you got the biggest applause from this audience, rightfully so. And the tall man has been such an indelible character. When you did this movie, were there any influences or any things that you were bringing to the character? Or did Don kind of help you out in terms of figuring out how to play the tall man?
Initially, I think the scene that you just saw with Jody, Bill, and the tall man in the mausoleum, Don had that perfectly planned out in his head, exactly how he wanted the movement, exactly the moment he wanted that hand to come down. And Bill's reaction, he even gave me the line reading, so that's virtually Don's voice. But actually it's fine, just mimicking Don Coscarella's reading. Then as we progressed further into shooting the film, he relaxed a little and felt, well, I seem to be getting the idea. So he didn't choreograph anything else after that, except, of course, the scene you also just saw, the tall man and Michael doing the little French pavane in the mausoleum. And as I mentioned, the chase, oh my word, we had to film again and again. Something about the camera movement, I think. Was that a handheld camera, Don?
Yes, it was.
And it had to be following just exactly. And 2 nights before, we had filmed the hanging scene that was cut from the first film, but showed up in Phantasm 4. And I was suspended in a harness from a tree all night long. And there was no immediate ill effect, but I think the unusual pressures on the leg muscles were worked to the detriment when we were doing the running scene. So I had to say, I can't do it another time. Well, they sent me to my dressing room, and Don came in and said, you know, I'm so sorry, but we think the camera jiggled on that last take. We want to do it again. I said, I can't. I said, I mean, it's almost impossible to stand. So he called a lunch break, and I had 30 minutes to pull myself together. And we did it once, I think once more, and got it, what you saw. And then, of course, the scene with the cutting off of the fingers was done another time, not too many days later.
All right. for Don, I think as audience members, the thing that we love about the horror genre, what we're looking for when we go to these films is, you know, we want to see something we have never seen before, that we couldn't possibly imagine. So how the hell did you come up with the spear? And like, it's a visual that to this day is kind of nightmarish, and I can't imagine how the origins of that as a weapon.
Well, it was a series of evolutions. I mean, it started, honestly, actually the only time I've ever integrated anything from a dream that I ever had. Because I literally, in my teen years, I had a dream where I was being chased around by an orb in some corridors. But then, when I started working with some collaborators and talking about it and thinking about how to expand it, you know, it became what it is with the drill and the blood pumping and all of that. And so it expanded. I don't, you know, it came from a dream. Phantasm was essentially a dream as conceived, so I guess that's how that worked. But a lot of times you do things and you just have no idea how the audience will react. And here we are 35 years later, and obviously that scene is still working. I was really thank you so much for letting us enjoy your response to it, because, you know, some of it's happy accidents, though. I can't take total all the praise for that scene, because one of the most visceral moments is the way that drill bit punches through the front of his cranium, and that just happened to be the fact that the blood pipe that was coming down the drill bit had a little clog in it. And so our art director, David Brown, you know, the previous one we had shot and no blood came out. So I said, on this one, really hit that syringe. I want the blood to come out. And we started, and nobody knew about the clot and the thing. And so as it was evolving, we're filming it, the drill comes out, and it started to wrap up the makeup, which we had never thought about that. But then you look at it now, and it's tearing the skin. And then it was just, the timing was right. And he was pushing and it wouldn't go. And finally, the little clot popped and the blood splattered. And you got that dynamic that really made it look like the bit went into his brain. So that was one of the happy accidents of Phantasm.
We have a lot of those.
That's true, yes.
Okay, what's the next clip? Okay. And I encourage live commentary if you want.
This is one of the greatest Phantasm acting moments in the film. I honestly believe this. It's the way that Michael lets this evolve, and I'm going to hand it over to him. Actually, previously, I'm sorry. I was thinking about that when he was putting that hammer together. But I'm going to let Michael talk about working with this bug, and he and Jody, and how they made that scene work.
Well, these were fun days. And, you know, if you saw that bug and what it really was, it looked pretty cheap. It was just a model from the toy store. And now this is, of course, it's just all a big fake. There's nothing in there. We did this scene quite a few times, and I can remember after 3 or 4 times of this kind of action, getting very lightheaded and having to sit down and take a break and almost passing out from this.
Come on.
It's pretty real. And here coming up is one of the great entrances in cinema history. Talk about a cool guy that doesn't know what the hell he's getting into. There he is.
Hey guys. I said I'd come over and see what was going on before the kids got out of school. Hey Mike, you want to ride along with me today? It's pretty warm outside and the ice cream's going to be flying fast and furious. Remember how good you were at crowd control last time? Hey, what's going on here? What the hell is going on?
Yeah, it just speaks for itself, it really does.
Any comments from either Bill or Reggie about that scene? I mean, Reggie, you buy into this whole thing pretty quickly after that scene.
Well, you know, after that scene, anything could happen. But just speaking about that scene, that scene was a lot of fun to shoot because it was very physical, and we all enjoy. I know Michael enjoys physical stuff, and I do too, and so does Bill. And so we just really had a ball with that piece, and the incredulous look on my face is really, what the hell is going on here? You know, which is kind of what the whole Phantasm thing is about. What the hell is going on here? So yeah, that was kind of a signature scene for the whole film, really.
So I think the next one is Jody battles a dwarf. Am I correct? So maybe Bill, maybe you can give us a little commentary for this clip.
So there was this kid who lived next door in the house we shot the film at, and his name was Lenny, a terrific little guy, about 8 years old, and we asked him if he wanted to be in the movie. And this is his performance. And Bill got to work with him. We never should have done this scene, having Bill shoot a live round over his head. We didn't know that was dangerous. That Lenny was a hell of a little actor, wasn't he? Now here comes an epic stunt by Bill. And once again, some of these stunts, I can't believe we actually put the actors in harm's way. But at the entrance to the gates up here, this hearse is like 6,000 pounds of metal, and it's flying at Bill at like 50 miles an hour, and we had one of the crew members driving, and he just dived out of the way, and luckily didn't get hit.
So glad he stopped.
So, Mike, tell us what it was like to be 13 years old and driving a Plymouth Cougar.
Well, people ask me often about that car, and did you really get to drive it, and you know, what was it like? And I learned how to drive in that car, and I had a lesson from Bill, and I had a lesson from Don, just so that I could look real driving the car. You know, making Phantasm for a kid, it was like what Bill said.
There's nobody driving that.
It was the fucking funnest goddamn thing to do. That's it. You know, it was one thing I was already a professional actor, but to do this, and all these guys were kids. I mean, Coscarelli was only 22 or something. So it was super fun.
I'm gonna get that bastard! Oh, Jesus!
Yeah, like there's no safety rig on Bill. There's nothing. He's just standing up. He's standing up there willy-nilly. Yeah, just go. It'll be fine.
All right, we're going to skip to just one more clip because I want to leave a little time for the audience to get to talk to you guys as well. I didn't realize this would take up as much time, but it's fine. So I think we're going to do, which one is this? The plastic containers and the slate platinum. which is just amazing. But that's what takes this out of the horror genre and opens it up to sci-fi, and you're like, wow, now I'm watching something I don't know what the hell this is. So I think that's what separates this movie from other genre fare of that time period, for sure.
So coming up here, right here, you see Mike approaches the space gates, and then there's this little accidental hand swipe.
Look at this.
With a little sound effect. Those are what are known as in-camera effects, which is there's no CGI going on there. It's just mirrors.
Don't fear.
Mirrors placed in a special spot and create this illusion. We don't need no stinking CGI. Mike the genius figures it all out.
Slaves. They're using them for slaves. The dwarves. And they gotta crush them because of the gravity and the heat. And this is the door to their planet.
I'm trying to take credit for that idea.
Don, this was kind of your Kubrick 2001 homage, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct? Is that where this came from?
Oh, I was a Kubrick fan, yes. So, there are certainly, we all bow to the master, as I probably did in that scene. But what's cool is we, start in that direction and then bring these wonderful actors. And I always love that sequence where the three of them are at the doorway and looking into this. And I can't remember what I told anybody in terms of their direction, but each one of them has a different expression and of wonderment and awe, and just so lucky to have this wonderful cast, which I think is why the movie still resonates to this day, because they all brought life to each one of these characters.
Agreed? So we've got a few minutes left, and I wanted to open it up to the audience in case you guys have questions. Just raise your hand, and I'll come over to you, and we'll work this out if you have a question for anybody on stage. No? That's it. Okay.
How you doing? I read for the first time today that there was a different ending originally planned, and Mr. Cosgrove, if you could talk about that, or why it's changed, or...
Sure. Actually, we got into, all the cast was pretty much released, and we were well into editing, and I should say we, I'm not going to say we, I'll take the blame for it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing as far as editing. And, there were a lot of ideas floating around. We had shot this entire sequence with that Angus spoke of, with the tall man hanging from a tree, and at one time that was going to lead us into the ending, and it didn't exactly work. And then we tried another one. There were all kinds of crazy speculative endings that we were talking about. We were going to have it, even though the movie was not, when I had started it, I was not going to have it end up being a dream. But then I was speculating that, oh, well, maybe this could all be a dream, and Mike would wake up and he was actually, his brother was getting married, and then it would turn out that he was marrying the lady in lavender, you know, but that wasn't so good. And finally just hit on this idea that, you know, one of the truths of the movie was just how potent the tall man was, and that the movie should end with the tall man, and, you know, boy, bam, through the mirror, and tall man wins, game over. And that was pretty much, you know, came up in one weekend. We went out then and shot that scene by the fireplace with Reggie and Mike, where was the reveal that Jody had died. And then we shot the sequence in there where we had to yank 13-year-old Mike through a mirror 5 times, and we finally got it right.
Which is his shooting ratio, by the way, 5-to-1.
Okay, going over here.
Hi, thank you all for coming out. It's such an honor to see you all in the same room. I was just wondering, Don, I mean, you're so great at leaking little secrets here and there, just kind of these vague hints, which
Not Don, he never lets a secret out.
Well, any of you that might be able to speak on this, maybe you don't have any information about this, but with the recent announcement and upcoming release of the box set from Anchor Bay and Scream Factory of the Halloween series, many of us are hopeful that maybe they'll join forces and do something with Phantasm. Has there been any talk on that? Is that an idea? Can you say anything? If not, thanks.
Thank you. No, seriously, who here would like to see Phantasm 1 in a Blu-ray high-def version? Now, hopefully all the distributors out there pulled the wax out of their ears and heard you. So I believe that that will be coming down the pike soon, with luck. Yes.
I got another question right over here. Hi, I spoke to some of you over there, so just want to first off say thank you for everything. And I had a couple questions for Mr. Coscarelli. So my friends and I have thought this for years, it's maybe you could clear it up. Is there intentionality in the mausoleum scene with the architecture? I was talking to Mr. Thornberry and I asked him, like right before you enter the room with the things that Reggie, you know, puts his hands on like it looks like a tuning fork, there's these Greek gods above it. And there's Greek architecture everywhere. It seems like Lovecraftian. If you were going for something on a subconscious or symbolic level, didn't know if you had that idea.
It certainly was on a subconscious level. But actually, my mother, who had been referred to earlier as doing some of the makeup, had also been in charge of some of the set decoration. And she found this great place that had all these plaster of Paris statuary. And she purchased a bunch of it and brought it, and I said, oh, this one's great, this one's great. And I saw those Greek gods, and I didn't know what the hell, which Greek gods they were or what they meant, but I thought, oh, this will put this over the door to our Space Gate room. You know, it'll be fitting, and I'm sure there is a message there that someone smarter than I can figure it out, what it means.
Okay, we have time for one more question, this gentleman over here.
I just want to say thank you for the first film being, I think I was 20 years old, I saw it on TV for the first time. It was a real turn on to see a hearse in a movie chasing and being crashed. And I think that's part of what started my liking for funeral cars. I bought my first one when I was 18. I've had over 200 ever since. I have one on display outside right now. But my question is, what was the original budget for Phantasm 1?
You know, truthfully, we had no idea what we were spending. It was certainly somewhere south of $300,000, but no one ever, you know, accounted for or audited what we actually spent. So it was, we were just making the movie until it was done, and we had some investors who were very flexible, thank God. And shockingly, when they saw the ultimate film, they weren't. I didn't even go to the screening with the investors. I was so freaked that they would, you know, just blow their minds and just say, well, you threw all our money away. But we did work in that respect. In terms of the hearses, I'm going to turn this over to Angus because something that gets overlooked is that Angus did all of his stunts in the original film, including falling into that hole and chasing the kid and getting his fingers chopped off and all that good stuff. But there's an extended sequence where Angus is at the wheel of that hearse, driving about 60 miles an hour with Michael bouncing around in the back. Angus, could you tell us how you were able to pull that sequence off?
I haven't a clue. These things just happen and you very hard to survive. I do remember that night, and I remember it was horrific. Somehow it all worked out just like shooting a gun at the little kid's head. We would had some angel watching us. Anyhow, just imagine how many years ago that was. Here we all still are,
You know, I want to just say one other thing. When we first had a screening of Phantasm, Angus wrote me a letter. This was pre-email, so he would actually write them out in hand and send them to me. And I got an email. I got a letter from him. And Angus said the most interesting thing, because he had been really impressed, I think, with the way people were being scared. And he said, you know, Don, I feel so fortunate to be involved. I'm quoting you loosely. And you said that you felt that night when we showed it that there might actually be a generation of fans that might be their first horror film that they watched. And I still remember that letter to this day, Rory. Is that what you said? Did I get that right?
Something like that. Yes, well, I had my first horror films when I was 12 were Frankenstein and Dracula. And, well, what a great double bill. Can you imagine seeing them both at once in this icy little theater crawling with horror and eeriness? So I was hooked. And I thought there are many, many people, young people, for whom this will be their first horror. And it's going to reverberate. Sure enough, but that doesn't mean that I'm not today dumbfounded that after all these years. Phantasm is one of the few movies that is still omnipresent, like Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, and not an awful lot of others, of course, Star Wars, I guess Jaws. But the fact that it not only has its original fans still loyal and faithful and admiring, but it's creating all new fans in their kids often and other kids who are discovering it. The fact that the first Phantasm has hardly ever been out of circulation. When one company's contract runs out, Don is immediately approached by another company that wants to redo it and re-release it on DVD, and now, of course, he's hopeful of a Blu-ray edition coming up. So it's marvelous to have this totally unanticipated immortality. Does that answer the question, or not? We're
just about out of time. I really want to thank everybody from Phantasm for your time. You guys from Newcomb, I think they're signing against the court over there by the window. So go and say hello to them. Thank you so much for coming in, and have a good time on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
I gotta shut this off.